Anybody else before I call the font of all knowledge on Coronation Street? John Whittingdale.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I would say I'm not sure I could claim that title, particularly listening to the contributions we've heard this evening. But I'd like to start by congratulating the Honourable Lady, the Member for Batley and Spen, for obtaining this debate and managing to unite the House with speeches from every side, from my honourable friends who have spoken with real admiration and affection for what is undoubtedly the world's greatest soap. I'm delighted to join in congratulating Coronation Street and ITV on their 60th anniversary. As was mentioned in the debate at the beginning of this year, the programme transmitted its 10,000th episode, and the 60th anniversary is next week. It is the world's longest running soap opera, and it's still the most popular. It also does, I think, demonstrate the extraordinary changes that have taken place in the media landscape over the course of that 60 years, in that today it is still bringing in the biggest audience of any soap, but that is around 7 million, whereas in the 90s it was regularly getting 20 million. And indeed the departure of Hilda Ogden in the 1987 Christmas episode had an audience of 26.65 million. But it is still getting something like a third of the audience share. And it just shows how linear television has changed during that time, but nevertheless Coronation Street has maintained its position at number one. Now, I cannot claim the encyclopedic knowledge which has been displayed by so many of the speakers in this debate, but I too have twice visited the set of Coronation Street. The first time I did so, as my honourable friend, the member for Bournemouth West, referred to, was actually with Margaret Thatcher in January 1990, and it was indeed the case that I had to brief her on the way to the set on the characters who were stars at that particular time. And I did indeed go through all the various storylines, and she was particularly keen to visit Alf Roberts' corner shop because, of course, her own father was Alfred Roberts, who ran the grocer's shop in Grantham. But she arrived on set and was very upset to see that Alf Roberts' corner shop had the sign licensed to sell alcohol. And she said that certainly this would never have been allowed in her own father's shop, who would not have dreamt of selling alcohol. But having said that, she did then visit the Rover's Return, but was very clear that she would have a bitter lemon from behind the bar. 24 years later, I was lucky enough to visit the set again, organised by the redoubtable Jane Luca of ITV, who I suspect has been responsible for the visits of most of my honourable friends who have spoken of their own experiences. But she organised for the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, which I was currently chairman of, to visit the new set. This was in 2014, after the set had been transferred to the new location in Media City in Salford. And I was indeed accompanied by my honourable friend, the member for Bournemouth West, who I remember his excitement at going to the new set, and we met a number of cast members at the time, including Michelle Keegan and Sam Aston. But one of the things which struck me was that they had made the set slightly bigger so that two cars could actually drive down the street and pass each other. But they'd also laid 54,000 cobbles. And it was the extraordinary attention to detail. Each cobble, both positioned and then weathered in order that it remained absolutely authentic. And my honourable friend, the member for Warrington South, referred to the extraordinary sort of amount of ancillary occupations involved and jobs created on a major TV production. And I suspect the 54,000 cobbles employ quite a lot of people. But over the years, Coronation Street has had a number of famous visitors. There is a wonderful picture of Alfred Hitchcock peering around the door of the Rover's Return, and a young Prince Charles visiting. And as the Honourable Lady has said, and one or two others, there are many great actors who started their careers in Weatherfield, as well as the Honourable Lady herself. We have the trio of theatrical knights, Sir Ben Kingsley, Sir Ian McKellen, Sir Patrick Stewart, as well as Sarah Lancashire and Joanna Lumley. And as well as the actors, we've had screenwriters like Jack Rosenthal and Russell T. Davis, who started off on Coronation Street, and directors like Paul Greengrass, Mike Newell, Michael Apted, all of whom directed episodes. A number of the speakers in this debate have referred to the willingness of Coronation Street to confront difficult issues. And we've heard a number of examples of that, starting from the issue of racism right in the very early episodes in the 1960s, but since then, teenage pregnancy, domestic abuse of both males as well as females, transgender issues, even the challenge of having to try to find the money to pay the TV licence and failing and resulting in imprisonment. I'm happy to tell the Honourable Lady that virtually nobody now goes to prison for failure to pay the TV licence or meeting the fine. But I'm sorry, in her own case, that was at a time when that was not true. And my Honourable friend, the member... Yes, of course I will give way.
So grateful to the Minister giving way. Just to say that actually it was pressure from this place that actually changed that law, and a subsequent programme, Panorama, that actually unearthed all these cases of women who were sent straight to prison for non-payment. So I'd like to thank the predecessors of those MPs in here that actually saved so many women from experiencing that.
Well, I'm grateful to the Honourable Lady, and it is the case, actually, that at a time when people were being sent to prison, it's been some years since anybody was, and I hope it doesn't happen again, but it was disproportionately women who suffered. But there have been many other issues. My honourable friend, the member for Buckingham, talked about the issue of raising awareness of sepsis. And it is perhaps worth observing that there cannot be another street in Britain that has experienced so many disasters and so many tragedies in such a short space of time. Of course, most recently, the programme has had to wrestle with the challenges of COVID, both in terms of production and also as a storyline. COVID stopped production of Coronation Street in March, and it was able to resume in June under the protocols to ensure safety. And I want to pay tribute particularly to the ITV Health and Safety team and to Magnus Brook of ITV, who played a very large part in helping in drawing up those protocols, not just so that ITV could resume, ITV Studios productions could get going again, but actually all the other broadcasters and film companies. I have been chairing the Broadcasting, Film and Production Working Group, which has brought together representatives of all the broadcasters, film companies and production companies to discuss how we could get production going again. And we have now got in place very strict protocols to ensure that production can take place safely. And also, as the Honourable Lady referred to, we have now put in place the £500 million film and TV restart scheme, because she's absolutely right that one of the obstacles was the difficulty in obtaining insurance of productions against the possibility of their having to stop because of COVID. But I'm glad to say that that is in place, and as a result, productions have been resumed by most of the major broadcasters and film companies, but it has required some quite inventive solution. I understand that on Coronation Street, Now, quite often, furniture is placed between characters in order that they can remain apart and socially distanced. And indeed, in a particularly inventive way, filming takes place of one actor sitting on one end of a sofa, looking longingly in a romantic scene at a tennis ball suspended from the ceiling. And then once that section has been filmed, the other actor takes their place at the other end of the sofa and stares at a different tennis ball longingly, and the production crew then splice the two together so that no one can tell. But it is very important, actually, not just obviously that production is done safely, but also the public messaging which a show like Coronation Street can help get across about the importance of maintaining social distancing and mask wearing. And of course, Coronation Street had the socially distanced wedding between Maria and Gary. I fear that it is almost certain that Weatherfield would still be in Tier 3 with the end of the national lockdown, which would mean that the Rovers' return would only be able to supply a takeaway service. But I hope it would not be long before the Rovers' return would be in Tier 2, which would, of course, allow the sale of alcohol with a substantial meal such as Betty's Hot Pot. The Honourable Lady also rightly referred to the importance of the UK production sector and to our creative industries, and the need to ensure that every region of the UK, every nation in the UK benefits from that, and we have been very keen to make sure that more production is done outside of London. The BBC obviously now has a major centre in Salford at Media City. ITV is now located with the Coronation Street set there, but I've also had the pleasure of visiting the Emmerdale set in Leeds, and ITV still has a presence in Leeds, and of course now Channel 4 have established their headquarters in Leeds. But I'm absolutely clear that it is very important that we continue to encourage production to take place right across the UK, because it does bring enormous economic benefits in terms of jobs and wealth creation. And the Honourable Lady, and indeed my honourable friend for Buckingham, also referred to the importance of public service broadcasting. We are living through extraordinary changes in the media landscape, which have brought huge extra opportunities for viewers in terms of a range of content that is available, with a whole number of streaming services, which didn't even exist 2 or 3 years ago. So now we have a choice of Amazon and Apple and Disney and Netflix, as well as the Sky and then the public service broadcasting companies. But the PSBs do have a tremendous role in supporting UK creative industries. And whilst certainly some of the streaming services are now commissioning content in this country because we are so good at it here, nevertheless the PSBs still represent the major commissioners of UK content. And we have recently established the Public Service Broadcasting Panel to examine the way in which PSB needs to adapt to this new landscape, but I am absolutely clear that there is still a role for public service broadcasting, and we will be looking at some of the issues and challenges facing public service broadcasters, such as, for instance, the issue of prominence, which my honourable friend for Buckingham raised. But I would like to conclude, Mr. Deputy Speaker, by joining all those who have spoken about paying tribute not just to a show that has brought pleasure and entertainment to millions of people over the course of the last 60 years, not just in the UK, but in many other countries around the world, but has also played a vital role in raising awareness and affecting attitudes on so many very important public issues. And as several people have said, I look forward to at least another 60 years.